Composer and multi-instrumentalist Herb Partlow is releasing some new jazz music. Today, I talk one-on-one with Herb for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Herb Partlow, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, sir. It's very cold today. I got to get my Java going.
Yes, sir. I understand that you are a composer and a multi-instrumentalist that has obviously you have also been a radio personality, a producer, an artist, a manager, and a recording and mastering engineer. Which one describes? Yeah, which one describes you right now?
Really, all of the above. I've been in the music industry for 4 decades. I was a first-generation rapper way back in the day in Southern California. Was actually on the same label as NWA when they got started. There was a 12-inch house called Macola Records, so a lot of people got their starts there. That's way back in the day. Yes, over the years, I really fell in love with production, so I spent a lot of my time in the studio. I own my own studio, invested in equipment, and through the 90s and 2000s, just continued to hone my skills.
Right.
And so I do all of the above. I'm a producer, composer. I still mix, master, engineer all my music.
That is amazing. What is the biggest difference about production from when you started in the music business to right now?
In the old days, to get the big sound that you wanted to compete, it was hardware driven. So you had to go to the big studio to get the big sound.
Yeah.
Well, with the advent of the internet and the resulting technology and plugins and software, if you understand engineering principles and you know how to manipulate that equipment, you can build a studio in your home and still get that big sound. I used to always tell people about my thing: small space, big sound. So,
what other principles are you using right now in the studios, Herb?
Well, I've been for people in the industry, you always hear the term Pro Tools. Pro Tools is the industry standard for a DAW, that's digital audio workstation. And I always found it humorous when I meet musicians. Oh, well, you're working with Pro Tools. Well, there's Pro Tools, there's Logic Audio. I've been a Steinberg person. Steinberg makes Cubase, and then Nuendo. Nuendo was the #1 software in the movie industry. So I have Nuendo. It's a very expensive package, but I've been using that for about I started with Cubase version 1.0. So I use Nuendo for all of my music production today as far as the digital audio workstation.
What is the state of music production?
Pardon me?
What is the state of music production?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, a person doesn't really have to be a musician. A person doesn't really have to know music theory. Nowadays, there's so many plugins. You can buy packages that will have loops of drum loops to start. There are even there's a thing called Unison. They provide chord patches for you, so you don't really have to know the theory. But in my instance, I do. You hear any of my music, I'm playing the keyboards. I play bass guitar live. I program the drums. So as Sandy Shore referred to me, and she's the founder of smoothjazz.com, she said, in essence, I'm a one-man rhythm section. And then I feature 3 different saxophonists, and I also work with a guitarist who's also a producer I've known for 20 some odd years.
Wow, that's amazing. What is your music theory?
My music theory? Well, I put on my marketing hat because I own my own web development internet marketing company, wear a lot of different hats. So my marketing tagline is, "This is jazz music for a new generation." It ain't your grandpa and your grandma's jazz. It ain't elevator music. I incorporate elements of hip hop. I have a lot of 808 kick drums in my music. And then I like to make it funky. I'll pick that bass up and, with my guitarist, my partner in crime, a guy named Ricardo Love. He's a guitarist, and then he plays MIDI guitar. And a lot of times it's just the 2 of us. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. And I'm going to get back to all of that in just a second. But let me ask you, Herb, what is on your playlist today?
What's on my playlist? Well, I'm actually working on a new EP.
Right.
So I love hip hop music. You know, I used to be a radio on-air personality. I was there when rap music started. Now, I guess I could tell my age. I'm actually 60 years old, but I have a 31-year-old daughter. I listen to a lot of the same music she does. So, you know, I like Megan Thee Stallion. I like Chris Brown. I like Cardi B. I can go on and on. Kodak Black.
Wow. Okay. I don't know any of those people except for Chris. And I have to be biased,
Okay,
her, because I'm stuck in the '90s R&B music. That's all I
oh,
listen to.
great era.
Yes, sir.
Return of the Mac is the most
Right.
timeless song ever. You know,
Yes, sir.
whenever I hear it, you know, it's a great song.
Yeah. And I know that you said your daughter is 31 years old, and you
Correct.
listen to the music that she actually listens to. How have,
hmm
with your experience, how have you adapted to that? When did you make
Oh,
that switch?
well, see, I'm at a beautiful age, so I always say it's what you've been introduced in the home, what your parents were listening to when you were very, very small. So I'm at a beautiful age where I know who Jackie Wilson is and James Brown and Otis Redding,
Oh, yes.
the Motown era, and then into the funk era. And then I played in bands. I played in one of the top bands in Charleston in 1976 and 77 called Johnny King and the Electric Icebox Band. Kind of country name, but it was a bad band. So I came through that era, but I also was an 18-year-old freshman in college at a party, a frat party, and this song came on. I thought it was chic, Good Times, and it was the very first commercial rap song, Rapper's Delight. And I was like, "Ooh, the song's kind of long, but I kind of like this," you know. So I was right at that age where I had enough exposure to really good music, but also young enough to adapt to the rap thing. And I've watched it from day one. And then being a radio personality in Riverside, California, I had backstage access to concerts. I've met just about everybody: Rick James, the Gap Band, Lakeside, Al Hudson in One Way. So yeah, I've been blessed. I have a really, really rich, a lot of exposure to music.
What else do you want to expose yourself to musically?
Well, I'm eclectic by nature. I mean, I think that I'm an eclectic individual, as you probably know, but I'm into a lot of different things. Um, but I really do I like young music. I'm getting more into EDM. Because that's being in the business and having to deal with Spotify. About 86% of all music revenue is now streaming from Spotify, and the way you make money is getting on playlists. So I'm starting to listen a little more, branch out a little more. But I'm like you too. I still like good soul music, real, as some people say, real music. But I try to incorporate all of that and kind of create a fusion of my own style. You know, to be honest, I'm not a heavy music listener because I'm a music creator, and I've got so many decades behind me. I've got a lot of different uh, flavors that I like, and I try to incorporate it in my music. And then when I need to do, if I'm on a new project, sometimes I'll just go to YouTube and I'll listen to what the latest thing is. I might go to Billboard, see what are the top 20 songs. So,
Yeah. What is your music style?
man, it's funky. Number one. Uh, that's not. I fell into jazz. I'm a contemporary jazz artist technically. I mean, on a daily basis, I have 5 to 10 songs playing on 20 to 30 stations in 15 plus countries. So I am a known entity. I compete with all the major artists in that genre. I'm on the same playlist with Marcus Miller and Gerald Albright and Boney James and Huge Group. These are the people that are major in that genre. So I'm competing with them. Like I said, my music plays in London, England, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Germany, Italy. I saw a radio station in Bulgaria was playing my music.
Wow.
But that's the beauty of the internet. It's level the playing field. You can reach out just like you and I are talking remotely. I can reach out and touch somebody anywhere in the world. So,
And I want to
but
get
my
back.
music.
Oh, go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
just going to say my music is really a fusion. Is kind of word used a lot in the jazz space, but I really do fuse various elements to create my own sound.
What elements do you want to use to, create more of your sound?
I love 808 kick drums. So the music that you hear in hip hop music,
Yes.
a lot of times now we don't even have a bass guitar or a bass keyboard.
Right.
Those tuned 808 kick drums represent the bass. My newest single that'll be on my new EP, and I titled it Variants. Go figure that. That's a popular word these days. And the bass of it is really a drum. It's not a guitar. It's not a keyboard. It's a drum.
Wow. That is amazing. I wanted to ask you this a couple of questions ago, but what is real music and what is good music in your mind today?
Well, to quote, you might know this guy, Jazzy J at 107. He would always say on his show, there's two types of music. There's good music and bad music. But again, something I learned long ago in life, one man's trash is another man's treasure and vice versa. I don't think most people realize just how big of a world there is out there, and there's a space for everybody. Just like if you take the pie chart of music sales by genre, and I try to be quick with this. In 2013, rock was king, made up most of that pie chart. 32% of all music sales was rock. Then you had a cluster of hip hop, rap, R&B, new country, pop, 10 to 13%. Jazz was only 2% of that pie chart as far as music sales. That's 2013. Fast forward to 2018, rock went from 32% to 22.5%. Then hip hop rap broke away from that cluster to 17.5%. And today, I haven't looked at the stats lately, but I'm more than sure that's the number one genre in the world today. And then contemporary jazz went from 2% in 2013 to 1.2% in 2018. So on some levels, it's a bit of a dying art commercially. With the advent of your conglomerates, radio conglomerates, Clear Channel,
Yes.
Cumulus Broadcasting, Citadel Broadcasting, when they acquired all these stations, all of a sudden the jazz stations went away. And why? Because they didn't find it profitable. But that 1.2% still represents millions of consumers worldwide. So,
Wow. I didn't know all of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm a practitioner of the music business.
Yes, sir. How do you, with your particular music, keep this dying art alive, which is jazz?
Yeah, well, I'm a little different in that I don't know if you saw the article the City Paper did on me, because people always ask me, well, where can we hear you play? My forte is I make records. My forte, I'm a mad scientist in the studio. That's where my gifts are. I mean, I am playing and composing my music, but I just make records and sell them. I'm more of a businessman than I am a musician, I think, but a little bit of both, or a whole lot of both, probably. And so for me, I've built a nice brand in the smooth jazz space, the contemporary jazz space. My music's competing. At one point, my song Paradigm Shift was #1 on the smoothjazz.com global listener chart, which is an important chart because it's not people in the industry ranking it. It's what the listeners say. And in all my years of production, I've always told people I work with, it don't matter what I think or what you think, it's what the people say. So I try to live by that. But my stuff's a little bit cutting edge. It's a jazzy, but with a harder edge, And some of my songs you can actually bob your head to. You can actually dance to. I mean, have you heard some of that stuff?
Oof,
So I'm
yes,
putting
sir.
you on the spot.
I've heard it. It's amazing, as always. You're one of the best. So yes, I've heard it. Really good. You're really good.
You're too kind, my friend. You're too kind.
I'm serious.
So let me ask a question now. So I've shared.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to take over your interview, but
No.
I've shared. Is your focus for this interview mostly around the music versus some of the other things, or?
I'm going to mostly talk about music. As a matter of fact, I wanted to talk to you about the City Paper. You told the City Paper this quote: Because where we are technologically, what you can do with a studio at home, you really don't need a label. But now it's incumbent upon the artist to build your own
Hmm.
brand, do your own
Hmm.
recordings, distribute your own recordings, build your own following. How have you
Hmm.
built your own brand, Herb, with technology?
Well, because I've been I grew up. I finished college and they had just introduced this hot new thing called the IBM PC. So I've grown with technology. I remember when there wasn't Microsoft. I started out with WordPerfect, WordStar, and Lotus 123 as a spreadsheet program versus now we know Excel, Microsoft Word. So I've just grown with technology. Um, and as far as with the music, and ask that question again. Is it around? Oh, you're asking me how do
Brand yourself musically with
yeah.
technology.
So I've leveraged the technology again. The internet has leveled the playing field. So in the old days, instead of having to go pay for a studio, I own my own studio, and paying for an engineer, I am the engineer, and paying musicians, well, I am the musician. I was a website manager and I was a webmaster for the Federal Reserve System. I was a website manager for a global firm. So I need a website, I build my own website. So I'm pretty much self-contained. And in 2004, I created Superb Music Productions LLC, which still there is my label.
Yes.
And again, I think it's for me. I've been able to build this brand because I am a nice blend of music and business. And then over the years, with the exposure I've had and the mentors I've had, I've even written articles for magazines. And there's this one concept I wrote about called the musical ledger. There's a left and a right side. And on the left side is the musician's mentality. That's what you see in a place like Charleston. A lot of talent comes a dime a dozen. There's so many gifted people out there. It's crazy. But the musician's mentality is about the passion, the art, live performances. Being a musician. Got a lot of that here. But on the other side of the ledger is this thing called the music business. And the music business don't give a damn how talented you are or think you are. The music business is a very legal business. It's about compulsory licensing, mechanical licensing, copyrights, publishing, synchronization. It's a very deep business. So
Wow.
so I've got a nice blend of both.
Wow. And I
And
gotta wrap this up. Yeah, and I gotta wrap this interview up in the next 10 minutes. But let me ask you, how have you separate the mentality from the music business?
me.
Yes, sir.
I'm just a different kind of. I'm a bit of a hybrid. So I'm from Charleston originally. I got started in music playing in a band here. I always had music in my family on my mother's side, but I've also always been business oriented. I was Future Business Leaders of America in high school. I won the award, Mr. FBLA in South Carolina. I was president of my junior achievement company. Won a scholarship to the Dale Carnegie course, Effective Communications and Public Relations, or Human Relations is what it was called back then. And all of that was accomplished before I turned 18. So when I went off, and I used to be a good basketball player many, many, many pounds ago. And I got a 4-year scholarship to the University of California, Riverside. So it just afforded me a lot of opportunities to both get involved in music, and I was a radio personality. And then when I finished school and went to San Francisco, worked in corporate America. So I've worked for some, I've been blessed. Just been blessed to have a lot of exposure.
Oh, absolutely. And when you go back to talking about obviously technology in your brand, when did
Mhm.
your music, Herb, embrace technology?
Oh, so I have a mentor, a guy named Dale Ramsey, not necessarily a name but he was a renowned producer and engineer. I referenced him in that article. Um, he was like my first producer. And I remember being in his studio, and back then hardware, big mixing board, all these buttons. I asked him one day, I said, "Hey man, how you learn all this?" I use this different word. How you learn all this stuff? And he told me just hanging around studios and paying attention. And ever since then, when I say I got the bug,
Yes, sir.
that would have been in the '80s. That would have been in the '80s, like '80. When I started, that's probably like '83, '84. And that's when I knew I wanted to produce music.
Wow, that's amazing. What artists resemble your music?
resemble my music? I don't know. The goal is to not have anybody resemble my music. That's the goal. But as it relates to this contemporary jazz space, I'm actually trying to be different than everybody else. A lot of jazz you hear, watercolors on Sirius XM.
Yes.
It's kind of like that standard elevated music. You can't tell if it's from 1988 or 2008 or 2018.
Mm.
When you hear my music, you're going to hear elements of hip hop underneath. You're going to hear elements of the funk. But people who, Marcus Miller he's a bassist. And I mean, if you know Marcus Miller, you heard Luther Vandross. He's a lot of the music behind that guy. Gerald Albright, who I went to college with his wife. So I've been seeing him for years. A wonderful musician. I like Huge Groove. I like Boney James. Those guys because they're sort of the standard bearers in that genre. But I'm always looking to take a left turn. To be different, to be unique. I think that's how you get noticed.
And how have you become self-sustainable as a musical artist here in Charleston?
Well, I'm involved in multiple things. I own my own web development internet marketing company, so that brings in a lot of the bacon. Because I know the music business, I distribute my own music. If somebody downloads one of my songs for 99 cents, I get 70 cents. Not some manager, not some label. I get it. Also with the streaming, same thing. Everything comes in to me. I don't have to deal with a third party. And while I'm not making millions of dollars, or not even hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I'm making thousands of dollars, it represents one of several multiple revenue streams. So it's what I enjoy doing, and each project out gets better and better. My brand gets broader, and so I've lately I've been a student of Spotify. There's a document called the Indie Spotify Bible. So I've immersed myself in how to get your songs on all these playlists. I have an account with a company called Submit Hub, and through there you can submit your products to various top-notch curators of music who create these playlists. And the more playlists you're on, the more streams you're going to get. And like I said, 86% of all music revenue today, whether we like it or not, is streaming.
Oh, that's amazing. You also told the studies paper this, her quote, musicians should be able to focus on their music. But unfortunately, in the old days, you put all your faith in your manager. And if you look back at history, a lot of the musicians were being actually taken advantage of. How have you been able to focus on your music and not been able to been taken advantage of and still have your faith?
Well, I mean, I learned early in the game about the music business. I was blessed to have a mentor that was a professional. So I learned the recording process. I learned the music industry. I learned about contracts. I understand the different roles and responsibilities. So I got the nickname in college, and I did not give myself this name. But my nickname was somebody started calling me Superb Herb. That was my name on radio, Superb Herb. Oh, it's about 27 minutes after hour 12. You got Superb Herb at 88. So I've always tried to educate myself along the way, and I figured out pretty early on that this thing called the music business is more business. I had the benefit of meeting Ron Isley in the 80s, I believe. Mr. Big, as they would call him now. We won't mention that other artist he worked with.
Right.
He said, he's the one that said this, quote unquote, it's 10% music, 90% business. That always stuck with me. And I believe in that article, we kind of make reference to that. It truly is, and it's a very tough, rough business. But see, for me, I don't deal with anybody anymore. I used to produce all kind of rappers, stuff. I mean, I've dealt with, I have one artist that I met him at 18. He's 43 now, and he's serving 3 life sentences plus 20 plus 10. But just to give you an idea of the type of people you may encounter in that music biz. You see all the violence in hip hop today, which is unfortunate. So I reached a point where I decided I'm just going to do me. And ever since I've done that, I've been garnering more and more success that way.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me fast forward to right now, and I want to just ask out of the blue. But what's funky about jazz in 2022?
For Partlow, man, what you talking about? What's funky about jazz? Because jazz, when you as a person who likes good real music, jazz is one genre that still has a lot of real instrumentation, and a lot of talented and gifted musicians. But I have a song out there titled "Funky Jazz," where I'm playing all the instruments, including the live bass guitar, and then I'm featuring one saxophonist. I tried to play horn, but could never make it happen. So I try to stay in my lane. But yeah, jazz can be funky. I think the bass guitar, I have the style of a Larry Graham, Bootsy Collins. Those were my influences. Louis Johnson of the Brothers Johnson. So, I like to slap that thing a little bit, and that brings the funk. And then my beats are really more hip hop driven type beats. So they're pulsating.
Yes. Absolutely. And I went on obviously on your Instagram page a couple of days ago for my research, and I noticed that you posted something saying, "Hey, I'm getting back to the music."
Mhm.
When what got you back into music?
Well, here's what happened. So I did my latest album. Let me see if I can do a plug here. I don't know if this shows up. Next Level.
Yes.
It takes a lot of time to do an album, and then once the album's done, then I take off the creator's hat and I put on the marketing hat because you need to market and promote your music.
Yes.
And usually I'll stay away from the music for quite some time, but then over time, when I feel those creative juices, which is where I am now, I start to create again. And whatever I've experienced in life from the point of the last project to now, because a lot of music is emotion, a lot of what comes out of my music probably has a lot to do with what I've experienced, what I've been through, good or bad. And I bring that out in my music. So right now I'm in one of those modes where I'm creating. So probably February, March timeframe, I'll have a new 5-song EP that I'm going to put out. And the title of this EP is Jazz and Hip Hop with the N apostrophe.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And I hope to get you back on for that as well. But let me ask you one last question, Herb. You talk
Mhm.
about creativity. What beats are you playing around with right now?
What beats am I? I mean, I'm creating a new EP. So this song Variants, I've got 808 kicks, very pulsating beat. And I hope I'm understanding your question. I mean, I create all, I don't, when I'm creating, I may listen to something for a point of reference, but then I get deep into just the creative part. So I usually start out with drum beat, and then I'll add some chords, might add a bass. In this case, the song Variants I just did, it's really just 808 kick drums that represent the bass, and then I'll add other keyboard parts, and then I'll send the track off to my partner Ricardo Love in San Francisco Bay Area, and then he'll add some guitar and send it back to me, and then I listen closely to what he's doing, and then I start arranging it. And, I mean, we did that song in 2 days.
Wow.
So now I've got 4 more to do, and so they're under construction now. So it should be it's gonna be a very hot EP though.
Absolutely. And what was your obviously point of reference when it came to paradigm shift?
Well, again, that's more of my business mind. To be sustainable in business, one has to be nimble. One has to be able to shift, morph, change. Uh, I kind of this case study I like to say Atari computers. That's you got to be old school to know about Atari computers. But at one point, they created the gaming industry, and they own a significant percentage of the early PC market. Well, now where are they? Don't hear about it because they became complacent and they didn't shift with the paradigm. They weren't ahead of it. So paradigm shift, I think it's in alignment with my whole vibe. Again, my jazz music it's jazz music for a new generation. I'm trying to make jazz music because it's a bit of a dying art commercially. I'm trying to make jazz music that's going to appeal not only to the traditional smooth jazz lovers, but to young people. Because when they hear my stuff, it's like, oh man, that beat is banging, man. You got 808 kicks in your stuff. So I'm trying to keep it young, keep it fresh, because My first music teacher was my older brother, and as this rap stuff came along, he wasn't getting with it, and I had to break it down to him. Well, this music ain't for you. When it comes to music and pop culture, youth always prevails. So that's why I don't get too dated in what I'm doing, and I try to keep my ear to the streets and try to just make some gumbo with my music, if you
Absolutely, absolutely.
will. Mhm.
When did the paradigm shift in your music?
You're asking me when did it shift in my music?
Yes, sir.
I think my music has been shifting, all the way through my whole career. Again, started out as a rapper in the '80s, got into production mostly in the '90s and 2000s, producing rap groups and rap artists mostly, or R&B music. Um, so, I mean, I think it's just been a long progression. I mean, I've been in the industry for 4 decades. I mean, I'm not a, I'm not a, I'm not a big time. I'm not like at Jay Z and people like that level. But if you were to Google me, I'm pretty well known globally as an artist. I have fans who know my music and like my music.
Yeah, that's amazing. What type of hustle, Herb, will you use for the next level of your music?
The same model I've been using. It comes down to first creating a good, strong product. The good thing about when I talk about jazz music making up only 1.2% of the pie chart of music sales by genre, I consider her a friend, a lady named Sandy Shore, uh, was ahead of the curve. She secured a domain called smoothjazz.com back in the 90s. And now that's the predominant platform. Now you got to pay them some money to run a campaign, but it's a one-stop source for that genre where you can promote your music, you get radio promotion out of the deal, you get global exposure. They have two continuous 24/7 radio, digital radio stations. So I have a relationship with them. They like my music. I shared my new single with them, and they are excited. They said it's on point. So I'll be leveraging the smoothjazz.com platform, as is the case with most contemporary jazz artists. I mean, all the major jazz artists on there. So I've always believed, if I'm going to compete, I want to compete with the best or the top people, and I have been able to do that. So I'll leverage that platform to market it. And of course, the social media, the Instagram, and then really, really focusing in on the Spotify playlisting. What I like to say, crack the Spotify code. I've learned a lot. I know a whole lot more about Spotify and playlists than I did a year ago.
Yeah. And what is that competition in the music business today?
Oh my God! Well, if you're talking hip hop rap, I consider it saturated. I think everybody wants to be a rapper. Everybody, it's the number one. It's the predominant. I don't have the Recording Industry Association of America statistics today. I haven't looked in a while. But when I said rock in 2013 was the primary genre of 32% of sales, I bet you hip hop rap has probably switched places and is now the predominant music in the world. Again, youth always prevails, what the young people are listening to, and not just African American young people, all people, people in Asia, That's why some of these guys like Migos and Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are such big stars and so proper, you know. So again, for me, being in that jazz genre, it's not as saturated. It's a little bit. I consider it an easier nut to crack, so to speak. Um, but it's still very competitive, and you got to have a certain quality to even compete. And again, my forte, as it says in that article in the very last paragraph, my forte is composing, producing, and engineering music. And I've worked at it a long, long time. So I'm very confident in the quality of what I do. Might not like what I'm playing or what I'm doing, but I guarantee you it sounds right.
Yes, sir. How do you produce, compose, and engineer your music globally in the next 5 to 10 years?
Ooh, I'm a triple OG now. I don't know if I think that far out, man. I'll continue. I mean, I had a much bigger, more impressive looking studio when I was in California than what I have now. But the studio I have now is much more powerful because of all the software I have. So I have sounds I haven't even gotten to yet. So I can only imagine. I think the creativity will always be there. I'll be able to continue to create new music, and I love it. But I'm also, I think, I'm community service oriented, and I got a lot of business stuff going on here in Charleston. So I'll just continue to try to do all things as long as I can.
What parts of the music business have you brought into the boardroom, say, per se, now that you're a businessman as well?
Well, I was a businessman probably first. And I think maybe better to explain it the other way around.
Okay.
How have I brought what I learned in the boardroom or in corporate America
Sure.
to my music business? Because I've worked for, when I worked at Bank of America, I didn't work in the branch. I worked in the office of the chairman. Now, I wasn't the highest ranking person, but when you have that kind of exposure, my grandma taught me early in life, God gave you 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. Figure it out. And I've always been one to watch and listen and learn. So a lot of what I learned in the business world, I applied to my music business, and it works for me. I'm not so hell bent on the all things music. I am musical. I have musical skills.
Right.
I have musical talents, but I also I incorporate what I've learned in big business to what I do in my little operation. So I'm a one man shop, Superb Music Productions LLC, and everything's self-contained. So, and I don't have the headaches I used to have when dealing with a bunch of personalities, gangsters and thugs and killers, and because when you're producing rap music there's a thing called studio gangsters. I've had exposure to some real gangsters, and but always they were always respectful to me because when you're the man behind the mixing board and you're making music, you're trying to help them fulfill their dreams. So nothing but much respect was given. But I'm at a stage now where I focus on myself and what I want to do musically, and I don't have to deal with a lot of outside personalities and things like that.
Right. What are you watching and learning next when it comes to the music business?
Well, always watching when you talk about practice, I'm old enough. You're probably, I don't know how old you are, but you remember we had the the 45 records, then the albums, the LPs,
Yes.
then the cassette tapes came and went, and then the CD, and then the digital downloads.
Right.
Well, now it's about the streaming. So over the last few years, I've really immersed myself in better understanding that. Because again, here's the business herd. Okay, I look at statistics and trends. If 86% of all music revenue comes from streaming, well, as a reasonable, I like to think I'm a smart guy, but just some basic common sense.
Right.
Then maybe I better focus in and learn as much as I can about that. So that's where I am today. But who knows what the future holds? There might be some other technological shift that might happen. One area I do want to get more into is called synchronization. That's movies, soundtracks, because they still pay off pretty well.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I see that happening. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes,
well,
sir.
Herb Partlow, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much, Quintin. I appreciate you reaching out to me. I believe in Charleston. If you get a call from Quintin, you're there, man. Thank you, though, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it greatly.
Okay.